Are you ready to proceed, Mr. Goldstein?
Yes, Your Honor.
23002918. This is the people of the state of Michigan versus Mohammed Asman. Mohammed Asman.
David I. Goldstein, praying on behalf of the defendant.
You want to place your appearance on the record?
Sydney Sachs on behalf of people, Your Honor.
Sure. Sir, can I have you state your name for the record, please?
Mohammed Asman.
And are you still using an address on Oxford Court in Ypsilanti, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Today is a date and time that's been set for both sentencing and some bond violation allegations that need to be addressed. I'd like to handle the allegations pertaining to bond compliance. Did you review the allegations with your client relative to allegations that he failed to appear for testing?
I'm assuming you're referring to what's on page, I believe, 3, under the section called bond compliance.
It is there, but in addition, you should have received some communication as well from the court regarding the fact that he had these bond violation allegations. But currently there are allegations pertaining to a failure to appear for alcohol tests on 10/6/2023, 10/22/2023, 11/4/2023, and a failure to provide a sample when he appeared for testing allegedly on 11/1/2023. So those are the allegations that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I didn't receive any in the email. I was on vacation. They may have come, but I didn't see it. But
okay.
Anyway, I see them here in the report, so that's fine.
Okay.
You know, I'm not going to address the one relating to October the 6th because I think we addressed that when we were in court back on October the 19th. That was already brought to our attention at that time, along with the positive ETGs.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so I'm only addressing more recent ones.
Sure.
He did indicate that he did, okay, let's start with November 1st. He did appear, he tried to provide a sample, he was unable to do so, but he indicated that he went back the next day and did provide a sample. Now what about, I can't remember what you said about these 2 days. Right after, but that's this one. What about the 11/4?
Well, before we get him to place these things in the record, I just want to be very clear. He sounds like he's going to forego his right to have a hearing on these.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
we're
go ahead.
going to address them today.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Your Honor, he indicates both November the 1st and November the 4th, he was unable to provide a sample, and that he did go back the next day and provide a sample. I have nothing to support that because there's nothing in here that indicates that they recorded that.
Okay. And what was the issue where he did not appear on certain dates?
That would be the 10/22 date. Did you appear on that date? Do you recall? He can't recall whether he did or not on that.
So clearly, it sounds like he's acknowledging that he continues to have issues complying with the testing requirements. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I'll accept the guilty pleas to these allegations without much explanation as to failing to appear, some explanation that has not been verified regarding failure to provide samples. And I will consider these pleas in the context of sentencing today. Did you review the reports and recommendations that were generated from the probation department?
I did, Your Honor. I did want to address one thing in the report. I don't know if I call it an error or not because the way it's worded is technically true. This is his second violation. Second conviction for operating while intoxicated. However, his first conviction, which was 5 years ago, even in 2018, was not for operating while intoxicated. It was for operating in the presence of marijuana. I know that's, to some judges, that's a distinction without a difference, but to some it means something. So I thought I'd bring it to your attention.
I noticed that. Thank you.
Okay. Your Honor, my client does not seem to have, at least according to this report, a serious alcohol problem. There is a comment in here somewhere that I read earlier that it's his attitude about alcohol. I'm saying alcohol because drugs do not seem to be a significant problem. He does not use drugs anymore. He has not used marijuana since the 2018 arrest. But apparently he needs some education and needs to learn a little more about what alcohol, how it affects people, what it does to people, and his attitude toward it. And I would ask the court to consider that part of the report in passing sentence. I know the court has to concern itself with the safety of the public in passing a sentence, especially in a case like this. But I don't think that Mr. Osman poses a serious threat. The court read the report as to what happened on this particular occasion. He has not been in any issue since that time. There was a ticket issued for reckless driving, which did not involve any any substances, but that case ended up being dismissed. So I would ask the court to consider that in passing sentence. There is a recommendation that Mr. Osman do some jail time. I would point out to the court that he does own his own business and supervises a number of employees. Any significant period of time in jail, particularly if it starts today, is going to seriously impact that business.
Okay, anything from the people?
Your Honor, I leave sentencing in your discretion. Thank you.
Sir, is there anything you'd like to place on the record?
Yes, about the reporting to the testing. Every day I went, it's just like captured with the time that I couldn't leave my place to go, or I don't have an employee that showed up that day for me to go. So I go right the next day and ask the guy. He said most people come the next day and test, and we'll report it to the court. And that's what I did every time I missed or anything. Anytime I couldn't, like go to the bathroom to be able to give him a sample.
Well, you just told me you don't even remember if you missed or not on the days that are reported.
No, the one on 10/22 is the one that you had just with me before, I believe.
No, I saw you on 10/19. So
Anyone that I missed, I believe it's like 2-3 times.
No.
And I went the next day and I dropped the right after, as of how he told me.
well, do you think that it would be appropriate to take the court's order as the one that you should follow, or the direction that you get from the employee at the testing facility?
No, you're right. I have to take it from the court order.
So they work with a ton of different courts, and courts may do it differently, but this court, and I think most courts, are going to expect that you appear and test on the date that you're called,
Okay.
not the day after.
Okay. It's not a day that I'm called, Your Honor. It's a number. I mean, it's a color that I have to hear. And
The date
sometimes,
that you are called into test.
yeah, sometimes it's not even the right color. I have to do it 4 times for me to.
Well,
even
I
get it.
have another way we can solve that problem anyway, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. Sir, I reviewed this report. I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. The one thing that I am quite certain of is that it does not appear that you are taking this case very seriously. It does not necessarily appear that you're taking any court's orders very seriously. I understand you're on probation right now. This is not a probation violation because of the timing of this offense and being sentenced. I saw a strange little note here about your sentence there. It seems like a fairly short term of probation. Apparently you're supposed to be testing. I'm not sure if that's happening, but we were the ones that had to notify the probation agent there that you are having all the testing issues that you're having here. But in general, I'm just getting a sense that you are not taking any of the court's orders very seriously. And this is a second offense drunk driving. That means by law, the court has to give you a jail sentence of at least 5 days. And I would actually consider a 5-day jail sentence, but we've had issues with bond all the way along here. And so I'm just getting a sense that you don't necessarily understand the seriousness of what's going on. I also reviewed the needs assessment, and I agree that there is some recommendation here that you have only a mild alcohol use disorder. However, it also was reflected based on your own answers that you were attempting to answer these questions very strongly in a way that would make you appear more favorable. And essentially, they found that your results indicated that further investigation was needed because however you were answering the questions was suspicious. And it does not appear that the actual diagnosis that was provided is likely to be accurate. And I tend to agree just based on what I'm seeing here in court. I mean, this is an offense where you could go to jail for a year and you just were in front of another judge a couple of years ago for operating with the presence of drugs in your system. And I don't think you quite understand how serious this is. And not to mention you're on probation to another court. So if this is how we're going to go forward with the probation term that I give you, I'm concerned.
It won't be that way, but I got one thing. I don't think I was supposed to test for other probation because I never was ordered to do this.
I know. I don't really know what's happening there. There was some note that part of your sentence was for testing, but it became very clear that you were not testing for that court's probation.
I'm supposed to be being discharged. I spoke to her yesterday. So I'm getting discharged now. I think that was my last time meeting her yesterday.
Okay.
He is correct, Your Honor. I did represent him in that case. He was not ordered to test in that Washington County case.
Did they tell him not to use drugs or alcohol?
Yes,
Okay.
but no testing.
Okay. So in this particular case, I have all of these concerns that I've placed on the record. I do consider the other information that you've provided to me about employment, education, what you believe happened on the date that you were arrested. I do consider the driving behavior, the blood or breath alcohol content, but really there's just a lot of concern that I have about the seriousness of this offense and how you are approaching it. And it causes me some concern because at the end of the day, I have to be assured that if I'm going to choose to supervise you on probation instead of giving you a much longer term of jail, I have to know that you're going to be able to follow the orders of the court and not consume alcohol or drugs and be able to test so that that's verified every week that you're supervised in the community. And right now, I do not have a very strong sense that you're complying with those orders. So for all of these reasons, I find this recommendation to actually be very fair. I'm going to do a couple of things differently. This is a sentence of probation that you will receive. I'm going to sentence you to 15 months of reporting probation, which is a little bit different. This is still, strangely enough, an offense that's eligible for early discharge. So you could be done with probation as soon as you complete at least 1/2 of the probationary term that I'm ordering. That you don't have any violations for at least 90 days, and that you meet all of the rehabilitative goals that the court sets out for you and can verify that when you request early discharge. The PO that's supervising you has to tell you when you're eligible and give you the form so you can make the request. I believe it's appropriate to place you on probation because obviously I need to ensure that the community is safe, that you're not on the road operating your motor vehicle while you're impaired or intoxicated by alcohol or other controlled substances. And I think at this point, it will be appropriate to take a closer look at the treatment needs that you may have. I am going to talk to you about the jail sentence here shortly, but I also want to make sure that you understand you'll have to complete a substance use disorder evaluation. You have to participate in the treatment orientation here. You'll have to complete the weekend education program and sign up for that within 60 days and follow any and all treatment recommendations from the treatment provider. This includes when you meet with them, they have to know that you're on probation for a second offense, intoxicated driving or alcohol or drug related driving offense. You'll also continue to refrain from the use of alcohol, marijuana, illegal drugs, and drugs without a prescription. If you have prescriptions, you'll have to provide proof to the PO. You are going to begin drug testing more frequently than you have been. You'll go 1 time per week. But after you complete the jail sentence, I'm going to switch your testing for alcohol to an alcohol tether, which will remain in place for 60 days to confirm that you're not using alcohol and will negate some of these issues that we've had with the alcohol testing. We'll review that after 60 days to determine if it needs to remain in place or if it can be modified. Anytime you have to complete a urine screen, you can't use liquids before you go into test. The PO has the discretion to modify the testing, and you cannot drive without a valid driver's license and insurance. I know you've already been fingerprinted, so I don't believe that that's an issue. You'll have to document your employment and what you're doing for work. And then obviously you have standard conditions of probation. Sir, at this point, I do think a jail sentence is appropriate, given the fact that the law requires I impose a 5-day minimum jail sentence for a second. Plus, we've had ongoing issues with bond, including up to the date of sentencing. I am going to order that you serve 7 days in the Oakland County Jail, and you'll have credit for 1 day. You also have to pay the financial penalties for this offense, which will be slightly different than what's recommended. You have a $750 fine, $500 for court costs, $125 for state mandated assessments, $110 is the cost for the assessment that was given to you in probation for substance use disorder. You have to pay $40 a month for each month that you end up being supervised on probation, and cost recovery is due pursuant to statute back to the city of Troy for their participation in the night that you were arrested. That is the sentence of the court. It does include a jail sentence, so I have to advise you that an appeal to circuit court can be taken within 21 days of the date of today's date, sentencing, or within 21 days of the appointment of an appellate attorney if you qualify for one. If you wish to file an appeal and are determined to be financially unavailable to retain your own lawyer, the court will appoint a lawyer to represent you. You must make the request in writing within 14 days of today's date if you wish to have an appellate attorney appointed to you. Do you understand the terms and conditions of the sentence? And do you understand the appellate rights that I've just read to you on the record? Okay.
Your Honor, would the court consider, given the fact that he needs to make arrangements for his employees, that he be able to report on Monday morning?
I am not necessarily inclined to do that, quite frankly. I know very limited a bit about what he does. He reported that he has 2 employees and that he has an Airbnb, which I don't know that would support a request to make a sentence date or a turn-in date. I'm assuming that the business that he owns is probably not going to be open for the next couple of days anyway, or at least tomorrow with the holiday. So unless you have something more concrete that would support a request for him to turn himself in after today's date, I think today is an appropriate day for him to serve the jail sentence.
Right, he'll have an opportunity. If he has an opportunity to use the phone, that'll be all right, Your Honor.
He will. They'll make arrangements for him to use the phone. All right, so that's the sentence of the court. They're going to give you all your paperwork, sir, and after you're released, first thing Monday morning, I need you to contact the probation department so they can get you set up with everything else that I've ordered.
I believe Monday morning he'll be out.
He should be out.
No, he won't. He'll be out till Tuesday if I'm counting correctly.
So he has 1 day jail credit, and because I've given him a sentence that's over 6 days, he'll have another day.
Right. That's right.
All right, so Monday morning we'll hear from him.
Okay, I forgot about that.
All right, thank you, sir.
They'll take it to you. At the office. I'm going back to the office.